And as we start, because the theme of today is the quantum field, which is the area with which I work and which I love, and the power of intention. Intention is the way I would like us to start. So I would like this presentation to be a little bit interactive. I hope you're all okay with that. And so I will start, I will demonstrate. So what is it that I would like to learn or receive from this talk? So for me, maybe it's not learn or receive, but give in this talk. And why am I here? And so I close an eye and I tune in. And my one word intention is clarity. So I can share my information with clarity. And to elaborate on that is that I feel that through my 10 years of experience with quantum technology, I have learned a lot about how we can help ourselves with the technology or without it. And it's been my desire to share with others for a long time. And I'm finally taking on the challenge to share what I have learned and what I have observed. So my one word intention is clarity. And then I'm gonna move to very briefly to mention about my personal story of how I even started contemplating about learning about quantum technology and quantum approach to health. Well, the truth is that I didn't really contemplate on it. It found me, and I was mortified and super excited at the same time. There was this one machine that I happened to have an experience with, and it told me spookily personal information about myself that I have not shared with anyone else. And it bothered me. It bothered me at the beginning because I couldn't understand how this computerized machine can know things about me that I haven't shared with the practitioner. But it also really intrigued me to the point where when I had some money that was initially supposed to be spent on my MBA, I chose to purchase the machine instead. And that's how my interplay with the quantum field started. And it was a difficult one because for the first 5 years, I was seeing how accurate the results were and how helpful it was for my life. And it was literally making the sailing of my life smoother, but I couldn't communicate about it. People would ask me, but how does it work? And I had no clue. I still don't really know how the technology itself works. I've read about it many times and I can't relay it. So today won't be very technological terms, but I have learned what are the principles on which this magic stands. And these principles apply to everything. We don't need to have a machine to be able to use these principles. The machine can make it easier, but I believe that we can all benefit from understanding the principles of quantum physics, whether we're practitioners or not, but for the creation of our everyday life. So what are these quantum principles? Wikipedia says that quantum mechanics is a fundamental theory in physics that provides a description of the physical properties of nature at the scale of atoms and subatomic particles. Basically, talks about particles that are below atoms, below the invisible field. Quantum physics or quantum mechanics describe the invisible layers, the invisible nature of our universe. And it also says that most theories in classical physics can be derived from quantum mechanics as an approximation valid at large scale. And the approximation is the word that I highlighted because once we learn more about quantum physics, we realize that our entire universe and our entire reality is a potential. It is not set in stone. that is why in quantum physics, we are not using set in stone values, but approximate values of the potential of what can manifest or what will not manifest. And there are a few principles that are quite important, I think, for us to understand, and I will talk about them later, how they influence our life. But I have prepared a I have got a YouTube video here that I would like to share with you. So I just need to see whether that will work.
Quantum mechanics shows us that particles.
Hold on. We are back here. Go to page.
Quantum mechanics. Can you see it?
You can see it? No. We did this with.
So you just need to reshare your screen once you click the video link. And then
I know. New share. That's it. Thanks.
I can see it, Michaela.
Can you see it? Perfect.
Yep.
All right. Who was that? Who did I hear before?
It's Emma.
Oh, hi, Emma. Hello.
Hello.
We didn't include you in the intention. Did you want to share your intention with us?
It is fine. I'm in a very busy background, so I prefer just to be muted altogether because it's go time in our house at this time.
Thank you. Fair enough. All right. So this is just a brief video clip, but it really, really hits the nail with his explanation. So let's all watch.
Shows us that particles like photons, electrons, and even atoms are in superposition, meaning they can exist in different states and even multiple places at the same time. They are thought to be nothing more than waves of probabilities until the moment that they are measured. This measurement collapses the probability wave of the particle such that it then becomes a distinct particle with distinct properties. One interpretation of this phenomenon is that the measurement being made requires a measurer or a conscious observer. If this is correct, then it implies that consciousness has to be an integral part of creating the world that we observe. Could this consciousness then be required for creating reality? Does this mean that there would be no reality without consciousness, implying the universe would not exist unless there was someone to observe it? The answer to this profound question is coming up right now.
So that is what I wanted to share with you. That was very brief. But talking about the observer in the quantum physics. So what they're trying to tell us, or what they have learned in quantum mechanics, is that it's the action of observation that makes the reality. So unless we observe something, it has the notion of superposition. It means that a particle can be spinning left or right, can be doing the opposite actions at the same time. And it's only, so the potential is unlimited. And it's only the action of observation that actually molded into reality. And what that means is that when we start observing our reality with our preconceived ideas, with our expectations and our thoughts and our filters, that in quantum theory is what makes the reality. So we can have, in practical life, we can have twins that were born approximately at the same time, that have been raised in the same either beautiful or abusive family, but have a complete different recollection or experience of their reality. And this is why, because they have observed it with a different set of expectations and different set of thoughts, which have molded and made their reality. Does this make any sense? Maybe. And then there is the aspect of entanglement, where quantum entanglement refers to a situation in which two or more particles are linked in such a way that it is impossible for them to be described independently, even if separated by a large distance. And that's the nature of how, when we work with the quantum field, it doesn't matter where the person is. Once we have created a connection, you can be on Mars, you can be in America, it does not matter, because the connection has been established. And they are the basis of distant healing, quantum healing, and the non-local, the non-local capacity to heal. And that, for some people, can be maybe more easily understood through prayer. We can pray for somebody, and it doesn't matter where they are. We don't have to be right near them. We don't need to touch them. And if the person's observation, means the set of thoughts, believes in that prayer, it sets the condition for that reality to manifest. Okay. So I'll move. So how these principles affect our lives? Why should we even care about something like quantum physics or quantum mechanics? Well, because whatever we observe becomes accordingly. And quantum physics is actually the one strain of science of mathematics that includes us, that includes God, and that includes the wholeness of all our potential. Everything is possible within the quantum field. What makes it more real and what makes it a little bit more rigid is our thoughts. Because thought is a moment of stream of consciousness that creates a structure by which reality is patterned by. It is the architecture of our reality. So we have this unlimited quantum field. Everything is possible. But it is our thoughts, conscious or unconscious, 5% conscious, 95% subconscious, unconscious repeated thought patterns. But these create an architecture or a structure through which the God consciousness or the universal consciousness or the quantum field starts sieving through into eventually our manifested reality. So when we create our reality, we are composing it in thought. When we observe the thought, it becomes a form in which reality itself molds. Hence, the events of our life are based upon our expectation and thinking, conscious or subconscious or unconscious. And the work we can do is aligning all thinking to create what we truly want. And this is where I want to give you an example of my not so smooth learning in past 10 years, where I really wanted to become a manifester. I am pretty good manifester sometimes, but I needed to learn that it's not just willing. It's not just that I want this and it will automatically happen. Because, as I said, it's also the subconscious thoughts that create the mold of the architecture through which the manifestation happens. So if I want really good health or to be really beautiful, but I have subconscious beliefs about it not maybe being dangerous to be really beautiful because men could behave inappropriately, or I am afraid of jealousy, then before I can really get to my full manifestation, I will have to face the suppressed aspects first. I will have to watch them and deal with them first. And if they're too much for me, if the men's attention is too much for me, or if the jealous friends are too much, I will go back to rather not having it manifest. I don't know if I'm expressing it clearly, and I think I would like to actually have a talk about just this aligning of the conscious and subconscious, because I think it's probably the most important aspect of what I am learning. But I think it's a big topic, so we could probably cover that all in a whole talk. But I thought I'd like to just put a little seed in there of how when we're creating, when we're praying, going to the level to which we are okay to receive. So if I want ultimate health, am I ready for it? What will I do with that? Or what is it that I'm really ready for? What is the next step that I will be comfortable taking in? Information field. Information field is an aspect of quantum field with which I work. It's an interface which communicates between the conscious and the matter. Heim is his surname. Keep forgetting his first name. He's a German physicist, quantum physicist of the 20th century, and he arrived at a new paradigm that it is a cornerstone of today's natural science, which is reality at its most basic level is not matter, it's not atom, it's not electron, it's an information. Because the atom, the electron, the photon, the bodily cell, they all need information to know what to do and how to behave. So the information field on which all creation is based only becomes concrete physical reality through contact with consciousness. What this means is information, the physical information field, is the basis for all material reality. It is the primal cause out of which all the physical processes and matter arise, and that controls all physical processes. So it's that linking of the consciousness and material reality. And I have created this diagram, which could be probably looks quite complex, but can you follow my cursor? These up here, there's 12 dimensions, starting from 1 to 12. Mathematically, the quantum physicists have worked their way up to the level 8, which is the universal information field, where all of our information, because we, on some level, on quantum level, we are all connected. So that's the universal field of all of our information. From the dimension 9 to 12, they're talking about universal consciousness or mind, maybe soul, spirit, it could have different names. And then at the very bottom, at the very opposite of it, we have the manifested physical world. So the dimensions from 1 to 3, they're the matter, they're the body. At the very bottom, we have the molecular structure, the biochemical structure of our body. Then we have the electromagnetic aspect of our body, which is often forgotten. If we look at how we view our health and have been viewing our health for quite a while, if we're lucky, the integrative doctor will consider alternative herbal or supplements. But that's about the integration of medicine we have gotten to so far. Well, there's a lot more levels to start looking at and integrating. So when we, I didn't put all the information here, but I can talk you through it. So when we move a bit higher, we have the electromagnetic field of our body, which is the meridians and the pathways that communicate with our DNA. And then higher up, we have photons, which is light. And the light is capable of communicating with the higher levels, or the information on the non-tangible levels of ourselves. So they are the levels from the 5th dimension higher. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever experienced that you can feel somebody watching you, or you can feel somebody approaching in the room even though you have not physically seen them? Yeah, I'm seeing some head nods. What do you think you're feeling?
Their energy. Their energy.
Sorry, where do you think that, you know, where do we start and where do we stop? Where are our boundaries? I don't know. I don't have an answer to it. I wish I did, but maybe I didn't, because then maybe we wouldn't be all connected. But what I'm trying to get to is that there is a lot that the Western medical view of what is our body and who we are has to catch up with. Because currently we're being looked at as machines or cars that if we change a new particle or a new tire, we should, or refill the engine, we should be working just fine. Well, it doesn't always work, and I would say probably 9 out of 10 times is not all that successful. Because in accordance to the information field medicine or approach to health, the disease doesn't actually start in the physical body. It starts on the information field. It starts when we disconnect from our meaning, when we start losing our purpose. Then it sifts down through the, I didn't explain this, sorry, the 5th to 6th level is structure, and that's the thought I was talking about. Those are the thoughts, subconscious and conscious, that create the architecture for the manifestation to happen. And so, but it's also more of an energetic space. And so the cause, so the purpose of not being well, the lack of meaning, the lack of personal purpose, starts in the information field. When we start being disconnected from source, when we start being disconnected from that flow of information, when we stop having the meaning making, and when we start questioning, why do I even bother? Why am I here? And then the cause can be energetic, that can create a blockage within a meridian or within energetic pathway. And then that can manifest as a virus, mold, high blood pressure, chronic digestive issues. Or maybe we sped up the process, maybe subconsciously, and this does not happen consciously. We do not will ourselves, I mean, few people maybe do, but most of us do not will ourselves to lose the health. But when we stop being in that alignment with our will, with our meaning and purpose, disturbances start happening. And for some people it can be manifested quite quickly, like an accident. And for some it can take a while. But I have found through my practice that it is important to find the cause, but it is also really important to start looking at why. What is it that, here, I'm gonna come here. What is it that the disease is giving us? Is it possible that there might be a benefit to not being well? And I'm sorry, this is not an easy question to ask. And it's not something that I would always, you know, I don't ask this at the first consult, but and I ask this myself all the time, and trust me, it's difficult. And I'm also a mother of a young child who lives, her information field is super connected to mine. So if she has a problem, 99% guarantee that it's actually manifestation of my problem. Horrible, having a mirror constantly in my face. But how is that actually benefiting me? Did I need a break? Was I not wanting to go to work? Is she expressing my anger because I have suppressed it and I wasn't able to own up to it? These are, if this was 1.0% possible that maybe the disease had some meaning or some purpose, what could it be? What could it be bringing me? And then turning it around and making the health the most meaningful alternative, which means finding the meaning, finding the purpose for which I would be willing to take the next step. And that next step again needs to be attainable, not a giant leap, because with those we generally get discouraged. But what is the next step of health that I could take, that I wouldn't subconsciously sabotage myself in creating? Oh, guys, how are we going? What's the time? Oh, geez, it's been half an hour. Sorry. Can somebody unmute themselves and tell me whether you followed this well and whether you have any questions for me? Please. No?
Michaela,
Yes.
I know what it feels like when you're on that end and there is no interaction. So, yeah, just wanted to give you some feedback that it's indeed making lots of sense. And yeah, I guess Holly and I here sort of interacting on, reflecting on how we have manifested certain things in our life. And yeah, it is making perfect sense in terms of there is some kind of subconscious benefit, even to a sick child, like in terms of, if I'm sick, I get more attention, for example. So even, you know, on the level of the mother, but yeah, it makes perfect sense what you're talking about. So yeah, thank you for sharing this. I think it gives a greater perspective on life. So thank you. I'm grateful.
Thank you, Jana. Thank you for your interaction. And yes, Jenny?
Hi. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's one of those ideas, concepts you need to come back again and again and again to, you know, every time it gets explained, it makes a bit more sense. And even though it's really hard to imagine the first time you hear it, that you could be doing this on purpose, or, yeah, well, sorry, it's not on purpose, but you've lost a purpose and you're causing it. Yeah, it starts to make more sense the more you think about it. Yeah, and it is a bit scary that, yes, you couldn't be causing somebody else a disease, you know, so because of your thought process. And yeah, so no, thank you. It's very clear the way you've structured it, and I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jenny. And may I actually speak to both of what you, Jenny, and Jana said? I you might not know, but I'm studying counseling at the moment, and we're learning the principles of family constellations, which is a theory that talks about the systems that we are born into, and that it's not that I'm just born a physical child and yes, I'm dependent on my parents because for food and shelter, but that there is lots of invisible connection within this family system. And the child is always trying, is the end of the hierarchy, always trying to support the system to their best of ability. And I'm still processing this, because that best of ability sometimes can look like not being well or being difficult, because it is their subconscious meaning making of how to help the family. Maybe the family has to change their way of living. Maybe being all really healthy would not serve the family at the moment, because the family needs to start making changes, and they need to start looking at doing things differently. It is not child's conscious decision to be difficult. Child innately wants to be good, but sometimes how the consciousness and the method, like how it is interpreted in child's actions, is actually showing the parent the anger, being nagging, being for in the easier cases, just being difficult, because they are reading the parent's field and helping. And it is really actually easy for me to relate to these systemic principles. And it's not that easy for all of my classmates, but I have been working with this technology for 10 years. And for those who have seen me or as a client, that I can often see that, John, this has your mum had I can see predisposition for diabetes. Has your mum had it? Like, I can actually see it within the system where it originates. Or I can see that, this has a systemic nature, and it started 4 generations before, because maybe somebody had such a trauma that was so difficult, it was not processable in the time. Like war, people had so much on their plate, they could just survive. They're not going to deal with the effects of the trauma in that lifetime. Their purpose, their meaning making in that lifetime is to survive. It is the generations after that then need to deal with the effects of the trauma that their ancestors have been through. And if the next generation can't deal with it because they're not aware of it, or they haven't had the capacity, or their life has been traumatic on their own, then it's another and another, until eventually it can come to a stop. It always finds its way. And I am a believer that the energy is always trying to be helpful. I believe in a helpful universe. It's just the acceptance and trust into what the helpful looks like. And I think that's...
Sorry, Michaela, to interrupt, but
Yeah.
Adam had asked a question in the chat box.
Do we have Adam here too? I can't
Yes,
see
Adam
him.
is here tonight with us. Welcome, Adam.
Hi,
So,
Adam.
yeah, Adam just said, what is your favourite program for generational clearing?
Are we talking, yeah, okay. Are we talking healing? I don't have a favorite program for generational healing. I would say for generational healing, this is something, thank you, Adam. I will answer it a bit differently. I think we can use whatever program, actually maybe the unity program, the unity, and the balance and the being. And they will look after the potential effects on bodily systems and cellular levels so that the body is stronger. But we only need the body to be stronger so that we can then work with our consciousness to make it a meaning making and to learn from it. I think using any technology or any supplements on any herbs or any, you know, acupuncture, herbalism, whatever it is, if there isn't an aha moment, if we haven't learned from it, then tomorrow, in a week's time, or in the next generation, it will manifest again. It's the responsibility to try to understand and to take responsibility, as in responding to the situation at hand. So yes, we can help ourselves with stimulating cells, so on that bioenergetic level, and that will help smooth communication between consciousness and matter, but it will not resolve the generational issues unless there has been a learning and acknowledgement. Sometimes it's also important to, it's not always necessary to say it was my great grandfather from my mother's side and such happened. You know, sometimes we can't have access to that information, but acknowledging, naming what is the emotion that we are experiencing, what is the story or the belief we have about ourselves, and that perhaps there was someone in our lineage that might have experienced the same, and saying, I understand, it's been difficult, and I honor the hardship you have been through, and I'm doing my best to process it now. And please look friendly upon me as I process it for myself and for our tribe, and I choose to go on my way now. Yeah, so absolutely, there is many modalities that are helpful, but what I was trying to, what my aim with this presentation was not just talk about one technology, but it was about, you know, when I read the information field, it can show me that I might have a preconceived idea that echinacea helps immune system, but when I do the scanning, it shows that the person needs to do some EFT, as in tapping, around emotional disturbance, or they just might need to gargle, or they might need to see an acupuncturist. This is where you could use your resonance to actually show you, with having a very clear intention. So using the clarity of intention to ask, and holding it with focus, and then asking with my intention of working with transgenerational trauma in this moment, what would be the most resonant program for me to use? And then if there is a result that has higher relevance than 62%, then I would use a microcurrent. If there is a result that's below that, well, that microcurrent is perhaps not the ideal technology to use. Sorry, this is a bit technical.
So is that only if you're doing some sort of emotional, energetic clearing that you would not use the wristbands?
No, what I'm saying, Adam,
is that what you mean?
Say it again.
So you're saying if that was over 62%,
yes,
you would use the microcurrent, so use the wires. And
yes. So provided that I would go to analyze the programs.
Yeah.
Then if there was a program that had higher relevance than 62%, then I would use it. If the relevance was below it, or maybe close to 60, but if the relevance was lower, then perhaps within the programs or microcurrent is not the right way to deal with it. And I would go to chakras, I would go to Australian bush flowers, I would go to Bach flowers, I would go to I Ching to try to understand the emotion behind it, or the lesson, the belief behind it. Vibrate that, resonate with that within myself. And maybe then once again, I could try to see if now there was a microcurrent program that was resonating with it, or I would leave the microcurrent out.
Okay. So let's say you did it and being came up at 55%. You would then go, okay, and then maybe go to chakras or I Ching or as you said, or bushflower essences, do a scan on the resonance with that and see with the clear intention and see what comes up from there, and then vibrate out those programs rather than put them through the
Correct.
cable.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam. However, I don't think everyone knows what we're talking about on this talk, so maybe we can make it.
I'll leave it there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sounds like that might be for Zoom number 2, Michaela.
Yes, yes, potentially. Hi, Mara. Adam and Mara are in Germany. What's Germany like?
Well, it was interesting before. I mean, Germany is amazing, but in regards to what you're talking about, we have experienced this 100%. Our kids were getting way more sick a few months ago when we were still in Australia, and we were both highly stressed. And even though, you know, organic diet, all the alternative tools you can imagine, but they were still way more sick and way more stressed. And then we've moved over here, our stress levels dropped 80%, even though amidst the global crisis, and they both have hardly been sick at all this whole year. So
yeah.
it's
And Rosie,
very true.
our 6-year-old Rosie, who, you know, has always been quite highly strung, is just so much more peaceful this year. It took what, maybe took about 6 weeks, and she just started to come down. Which was in lockdown as well.
Yeah, which was us coming down. So yes, what you said is spot on.
So in the way I was trained, the child is closely locked into a parent's information field until 7 years of age. But one of my other teachers said that it is until the child's own acknowledgement of major event where they feel like an adult. For somebody, it can be graduating from high school. For someone, it can be getting married. For somebody, they never actually, this is where the work of rights comes at a very important, you know, like the
rites of passage.
Girls go, thank you, go through rites of passage to come to their maturity. This is extremely important because as a parent, hopefully we want our child to go on their own and be able to be their own person. But also as a child, you know, we do hopefully want to enjoy our own life. There is still the background, you know, the system is there, but the rite of passage puts it on a different dimension. So the interdependence or the influence between mothers or fathers and child's information fields become lesser.
I'd just like to quickly share a really obvious example as well. I went to Portugal, I think 2 months ago, and I went to these sacred sites and walked into these portals and temples, and I opened some things up and past life things, and was open, and my field was really open, and I think some things really jumped onto me. I opened up some crap, and I was sort of a bit out of my depth. And anyway, I came back, and my little guy, Eon particularly, was just off me from when I got back. And it was really hard. And then I did a holographic, which is, some of you may know, it's a type of kinesiology type thing. And we cleared, you know, we did some pretty strong clearing work. And then from that day on, I've been a totally different person again, really back in my center. And then the relationship with the kids has really changed really quickly as soon as I cleared whatever it was that I'd opened up. So it's really amazing how sensitive they are to our energy fields.
Yeah.
And what's going on.
So sensitive. And once we can become aware of it, it's a gift. It's such a quick feedback loop for a parent on a growth path. Yeah. It's a quick feedback, not always that comfortable when in reaction, but yes. All right, guys, thank you so much for participating and coming.